welcome to another episode of RealmIQ Sessions. I'm Curt, and we are talking about everything AI. Here with us today is Orion Ohev, one of our RealmIQ mentors. Orion, welcome, and elaborate on your career history and how you see AI fitting in.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Curt. It's so good to be chatting with you. And yeah, I've been coaching for the last 10 years or so, coaching individuals, which led to coaching leaders and executives. And then they started to bring me in into their teams. And, my specialty is helping teams unravel some of the learned patterns that are kind of left over from the industrial age and now left over from the information age as we're moving into the age of AI. So this age is requiring a different skill set, a different capacity. And, up until now, institutions have been successful, businesses have been successful based on needing a lot of conformity, needing a lot of get it done energy. And now that AI is coming into the forefront, there's a great opportunity, actually. I know some people are nervous about it, but for me, it's a great opportunity for more people to get back into their creativity, to get back into their uniqueness, and to utilize this technology as an ally to support with some of the doing and really allow that innovative edge that I think each human holds to come forward. And my work is really getting more exciting because now I feel like I'm really able to help innovative teams build that capacity in their nervous system again to hold the energy of their own creativity and the intersection of all the team members' creativity to allow something truly leading edge to come forward.
Well, that's awesome. I like the way you define the three eras there. We're entering this AI era, the age of AI. And I want to say that, AI as a term, artificial intelligence, gets a lot of negative press because it's artificial and a lot of robots associated with the imagery and the brand of AI. But if we can switch a paradigm to, as you described, thinking of AI as an ally, then it might be called augmented intelligence, because augmentation means, empowering one and giving one superpowers to like do things that they couldn't do before. And I like that positioning a lot better than, robots and artificial, fake. So what is your general feeling around AI ethics? Because you're involved with educational institutions and they're going through quite the turmoil of how to deal with it. But what is your point of view on that?
Yeah, I mean, the two areas I'm most familiar with in that discussion are around the AI art, and making sure that artists are getting, compensated for the imagery that's being utilized to generate some AI art-based imagery. And then, like you said, the students now being able to use AI to support them in writing papers and etc. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess I'm curious. I don't think I have a fully formed opinion on it at the moment. I think we're all just allowing this new reality to emerge. And what does it look like? I think it's pointing out more holes in the education system is what I see, which is, interesting. I don't want to label it good or bad. It's just, a lot of, universities are now trying to figure out how do we engage with Gen Z? How do we engage a more diverse population as the United States population gets more diverse? And Gen Z grew up with all this technology and isn't standing for the industrial age, demands on what it means to move up a hierarchy in that way. So there's a lot of pushback, and students are looking for a different means of education. So when I think about AI as an ally and AI as in helping students write a paper, I mean, the curious questions I have are, how can we look at it in a way that opens up a whole new level of education? I don't have answers, I just have questions. Yeah. And how can we've got this technology now that can help a student research and write a paper in instance. How do we lean into that and encourage students to use that in a creative way to get their research done quickly and then add their own creative voice and flair to it? But I'm not an expert for sure.
But speaking of voice, I think that when the computer came out, Google certainly helped students, right? I mean, I went to college before the internet, so I was researching in archaic ways. But at the end of the day, if a student uses a computer, Google, and or AI or ChatGPT, they're gaining knowledge. They're in there, they're kind of guiding what I call the prompt chaining, not prompt engineering, but prompt chaining. And that speaks to the dialogue that you have with this assistant, your ally, right? And they should be learning in that process and discerning what to keep in, what to keep out. Again, acting kind of as an editor versus a solo writer. And then I think that the challenge is, as they're absorbing all this, they're becoming an expert, hopefully, on whatever subject that they're researching. And if I was a professor, I would want them to get up in front of class and give an oral presentation of their thesis, their writing, their discovery. And so that synthesis of doing research using ChatGPT, absorbing it, and then being able to espouse an opinion or a point of view based on that research, I think that's what students need to be learning in schools anyway. But it gets away from this notion of, oh, the students are cheating somehow, and I don't, so nothing's authentic. When if you switch to the point of view of, hey, it's technology, use it, do your research, but you're going to get up in front of class and talk about it, because research is supposed to make you smarter. Writing is supposed to make you smarter. Editing is supposed to make you smarter. So prove it. Okay. So, and again, maybe it's a little more Socratic in terms of teaching approach, which I think is a good teaching approach. Then why not incorporate that? Lose the fear of the technology, because it's here. The genie's out of the bottle, right? I mean, how do you feel about that approach to education? Because I think there is a crisis. I think there's a learning crisis. I don't want to go on another rant, but I think there is a learning crisis. But if they can get excited about these tools to help them learn, and it can raise our educational level, which is not ranking well against the world. We're both in New Mexico. Our state ranks way down there. So, access to internet's a problem. But if they get the access to the internet and use these tools, can it up level? Can it upskill? Can it help this problem of this dumbing down of our society?
I think, absolutely. I love what you said. And I love it's asking the school systems to think of to let go of their hold on how education has been for the last several, decades, centuries. It's really asking, okay, how do we get creative again? And I think there's such potential again here to infuse creativity into the education system, both from the teaching standpoint and the administration standpoint, but also for the students to really augment, as you said before, the creative skills and problem solving skills, and getting away from memorization, getting away even further away from creating cookie cutter students that fit a certain mold. And like, how do education systems, I mean, it opens up so much potential to create a new way of operating in the classroom. And what's exciting for me, because as you know, I use AI in my company, but I don't like where I fit in the RealmIQ picture is more around people's capacity to navigate this change. And for me, what's exciting when I'm working with teams in education is that I know I don't have the answers of how this is all going to look and going to work. I love what you're proposing. I feel like that's like a really interesting way to go about it. But I know all these teachers, all these faculty, all these administrators, they have the answer. It's just a matter of helping them navigate the fear of the change, the learned patterns of and helping them navigate a system that still rewards and helps gives them a path of their career that involves getting more done and conforming, less so than creativity. And I don't want to overgeneralize. There's lots of pockets where people are moving into a more creative space, but to me, it's about the nervous system. How do we help people begin to unravel those fears, and teams unravel those fears, and institutions unravel those fears, so that are unconscious, that are just being driven from the lizard brain aspect of our nervous system, to really allow them to step in to the opportunities here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Getting over the fear is certainly one thing, but to help them get over the fear, and let's talk about the teachers instead of just the students, right? This is a very stressed out population of our workforce sector, underpaid, overworked, and so how can this technology, generative AI, help from a time management perspective? If it's supposed to make us more efficient, well, what is that doing? If a instructor, a teacher, professor has a task list of 20 things that they do every day, how can they envision or use AI to eliminate 3/4 of those tasks, which are menial in nature, but it takes up time, and time outside of class, it adds to a working day, which is 12 to 15 hours. And so time management is empowerment. And AI not only makes you better at certain things, but it can also eliminate tasks, saving you time.
Yeah.
Again, they're already overworked. So how can they get that down to a manageable workday? And I would think they'd embrace that, because again, they're underpaid and overworked. How can technology help them?
Yeah, great question. Like I said, and I know you know this, so I'll answer it best to my expertise here. My expertise is more on the human side of things, but again, technically, like, well, the first thing that comes to mind is, there's the possibility to train models, like potentially train grading models of how do we grade certain things, and that can be, because I think the fear is also is who's training these AI models with what information, so, but there's also the possibility to train, for an education institution, to train a model for a particular use. And so, but also I think just, day-to-day tasks, like the question though that I would love to answer, if you feel it's a good direction, is like, for me, when you ask those things, it's like, yeah, there's the one level, and I think you have a lot. I'm really curious to turn that question back onto you, and to like hear how you see this technology can be used, and because I'm really curious. And also, though, the question for me is, how can the institution and the administration actually shift the foundational issue? Because I think the 12 to 15-hour work days, there's two levels AI can help. AI can help with the symptomatic workload, but I think even more, AI can help the root issue, which is there shouldn't be 12 to 15-hour work days. And what is underneath that? And how can we use AI to create new systems and structures that eliminate that challenge to begin with?
Yeah, the larger picture, as you say, is reevaluating how we're teaching our kids, and not just colleges, right? Not everyone gets to go to college, and so it's down to, I remember my kids growing up, they learned PowerPoint before I did, so they were learning it in their classes when they're in like fourth grade. Fourth grade. I didn't take a typing class till seventh grade. So, and that's the generation, right? That is now, they're in their 30s and part of the working population. And so, there needs to be a reset. I think a technology change that generative AI has brought upon every aspect of business, every aspect of education, every aspect of healthcare, even legal. The implications are far-reaching.
Yeah,
I think every industry needs to look at what is going on. And I know it's on top of mind with every CEO. What do we do? How does this affect our business? And, businesses are competitive, but industries are changing. And some types of companies are just going to go away because of this. Now that supports the threat of job loss, but also new jobs are going to be created. Intuit just, I think 2 weeks ago, fired 200 people, and then they were replaced with AI trained people. So that threat of being replaced by robots, not true, but you're going to be replaced by someone who's been trained on AI is true. It's happening. So how are we educating our kids in college for this new future workforce? Right? It's one thing to get the education and, that whole institution of academics and study and all that, but what are we training? How are we training them in school in prep? Because, maybe they have a 2 or 3 year window before they graduate if they're a freshman. And how different is this world going to be based on AI than it is today, which is all kinds of changes are happening. Does that level out or get worse or better 2 or 3 years from now? What are we teaching our children right now?
And what are we teaching them? How are we teaching them? What are we teaching them how to use this technology? How are we teaching them in the classroom utilizing this technology? But I think even the third question is, who are we teaching them to be? How are we preparing them? Because right now, in a lot of schools, there's really beautiful, powerful exceptions, but in most schools, we're still teaching our students to be a conformed expression of who they are. We're still teaching them to shut down parts of their emotions, parts of their genius, parts of their curiosity, parts of their exploration. And for me, the companies that are going to future-proof, the teams that are going to future-proof, the leaders that are going to future-proof are those that are leaning in to creativity, uniqueness, expression. And so that to me is I wouldn't say the most important question. It's the question I get most fired up about is, who are we teaching our students to be? We know where this is going. So we've got to start preparing our students to be creative, unique, expressed, and shift our education system around that, and using this technology as a benefit and a support in doing that.
Yeah, I believe this technology allows one to get rid of the menial tasks in their lives and remove barriers to learning, remove the barriers of doing, and open your brain. We only tap into a certain amount of our brain. Can we tap into more? Because we could be freed up from stress. We could be freed up from better time management. We could be freed up from the shackles of these mental obstacles, these impasses that we put in front of ourselves every day. And if those walls can come down, people can achieve great things, not greater things that they hadn't even imagined, because they didn't have the mental bandwidth to even tackle real problems in our society.
Exactly. Yes.
Right? How do we get to that higher level and get out of this busy stress, impassable system we're in?
Yeah, and I love that question. And to me, you just said it. It's the busy impasse. It's like we need to create space in our education system, creating space for our students to, like you said, can we access more of our brain? I think so. But I'm also interested in, what if we stopped encouraging students to stop listening to their heart and their gut? The 100 million neurons in their gut and the 40,000 neurons in their heart that are connected to the neural network of the mind. What if we stopped teaching our students to suppress those and really encourage that? And what if education was more of a space creation, more of a space holding, more of a guidance, not a teaching, not telling people to learn, but allowing the exploration process, allowing the trust of oneself, and one's own expression to guide the education process, which a lot of traditions are already doing, like Montessori and Waldorf are on that path. But what if that was more pervasive and then simultaneously in the workforces creating space? And this is what I work with my teams on. And what my aspect, my part of RealmIQ is to support teams in creating space when there's deadlines, when there's institutional pressure, when there's market pressure. How do you actually create space? Because one of the things I help my teams really look at head on is how much energy they're really wasting. And I invite them to put a number to it. And usually that number, when we really look at, okay, here's the things that you're keeping the plow through to get it all done. And here's the tensions that are arising because of that. Here's the frustrations. Here's the infighting. Here's the challenges. And that number usually is somewhere between 25 and 50%. Like they can acknowledge we're probably losing that much energy, but we don't have time to do anything about it. Well, it's like, okay, how do we right there, leverage point, right? How do we create space? How do we initiate a little bit of local tension, local challenge? And, obviously it's always balancing with people's livelihood and making sure that that's done in a way that isn't going to threaten people's jobs. But there's these ways in moments. Each moment is an opportunity to create space. Each moment is an opportunity to notice a reaction in the body and to pause and choose something else. And the more space we can create, so mentally, emotionally, physiologically, but also AI helps us create space. So that, again, is where the tool comes in to not only the actual functions of what AI can do, but how it creates space for wasted energy to be repurposed, and actually getting the genius of all the team members to have the space to be heard, to have the space to let's actually move this resistance out of the system. Let's pause. Let's stop operating towards these goals that don't even make sense just to hit numbers and to fill up an 8-hour workday. And it is about creating space. And there's no easy answer to that, which is the beautiful thing about AI. We're moving the age of AI. We're moving out of this formulaic leadership training age where we're going to come in and here's the leadership methodology and we're going to teach you it and you're going to input. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because it doesn't take into account the individual uniqueness of each person on the team and the capacity of their nervous system to actually implement that methodology. Instead, AI is asking us to be space creators and space holders, and for leaders to do that for their team and to be in the tension. Okay, when we aren't busy anymore, how do we navigate all these different perspectives, and what's that unique goal that comes out at the intersection?
So that is so interesting. When I worked at NBC Universal, when it was owned by GE, went through a lot of corporate training, and GE's famous for that. But I remember specific activities. They were doing group activities of how to, use your team to complete a task. And either confusion was created or someone figured it out. And, the leaders are sitting on the sidelines watching all this happen with their employees that they've hired and invested in to do these training sessions. And they're picking their leaders based on how people are able to, coalesce a team, guide and lead a team and get a desired result, whether it could be, these very silly kind of tasks, but it's about organizing people. That has less to do with the individual creativity because they're looking at, that leader didn't really get their team together, but they didn't. And so they look at it from a performance level, but they didn't look at it as what are the unique qualities of that individual, because they're here for a reason. We hired them for some reason here at the company. So, so it's those exercises weeded out and gave indicators, when layoffs did happen, pick your leaders, right? And based on those types of exercises, which are archaic at this point.
Right.
And
so then what are we choosing,
Yeah. Then how are we choosing our leaders? So I think the net result is, I think the definition of leadership changes with these new possibilities. And again, one who can embrace technology and elevate themselves to a different level of thinking, you know, that's very individualized, but important. And that's the opportunity. So I think, leadership is going to change. And of course, it's the old guard in charge of whether to adopt or perish when it comes to AI integration into companies. So we'll see how not only generations conflict, but people who are quick to adopt and adapt to technology, how those cultural shifts help guide leadership in companies, because it's all changing. One last thought. I listened to a great seminar by Scott Galloway. I don't know if you follow him, Prof G.
Heard of him, yeah.
He wrote a book. He's very concerned about our young males in our society, becoming more and more isolated. Part of the effect of, being hooked to your screen, whether you're watching TikTok or you're playing with Gen AI and making images and writing stuff, it also leads down a path towards isolation, which is not healthy. So I'm hoping in that scenario that the freeing up of time will allow time for someone to go out and take a hike. Okay, get out in the world, go to a party, socialize, right? Because post pandemic, we need people to be together and be hugging each other and socializing and talking and making jokes and landing jokes. And that's part of being human. So we can talk about all this technology, which is very screen based, right?
Yeah.
But if we're saving time trying to get to another level of the human experience, let's not forget about just turning everything off and going and taking a hike.
Yeah, I love it. And, that is something I'm really passionate about. I think what gets me excited about the work we're doing with RealmIQ is it's going to be pervasive. It's pervasive. It's like working in the workplace, but it can't not make it into the homes. And what I mean by that is, or how I see that is, the screen addiction, and all these institutions, Facebook, Twitter, and to varying levels, like they know their profit models are based on getting people engaged and staying in the platform. So their algorithms are scientifically meant to create addiction to it. And that's one of the challenges. So that I'm curious how AI can shift that profit model or the way we even operate and in the online realm. But it's also like again, it comes back to me to how for the last several generations, we have been trained to suppress our emotions for at least 3,500 years, if not more, as a society, as a collective society. And in the last, moving into really, as we've been growing our populations and moving into cities, over the last 7,000-ish years, I might have that number wrong. It's like 7,000 to 11,000 years. We've needed to conform as a collective and form into these tribes. And I really do believe the periods we've been through, even though they're wrought with war and pain and challenge, like when I look back on history, I always try to look back on it with compassion. Like how were our ancestors trying to survive these times of growing populations, and how do we all support each other, and how do we form a civilization? And I think they did the best they could, as ugly as that looks sometimes. And now, how do we do the best we can? And how do we acknowledge that in this moment, I really believe that one of the keys is creating space for emotion again in all environments, because people suppress so much emotion. One of the best ways to do that, feeling anxious, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, TikTok, Facebook feed, social media, watching YouTube. It's part of that. And how can we, if people are feeling free to express themselves in a safe way, where they're not going to be punished or beheaded or whatever it is, or fired because they're too emotional, or where we're finally, how can we use AI to really unravel some of the racial and gender challenges that are still showing up for people of color, and women and people of other gender choices and sexual orientations, like that there's still these unconscious patternings of our system being built on a very, I don't know how else to say this, but a very like, yeah, how can I say it? But I mean, the truth is a very white patriarchal system. And I don't mean white by the color of the skin. I mean white as a way of being, this very buttoned up way of being that expects one way. So there's like, how can we use this technology to create, how can we create space for emotions? And here's the question. How can we create space for emotions, for people to be seen and heard, for us to understand each other's experiences, to understand what it's like to move through the world with each other, these team members we have, get all that out so we are actually understand how to communicate and leverage each other's genius. That is going to reduce the fundamental root cause of the addiction to technology to avoid. Then we're freeing up the space to use technology to benefit. So.
Yeah, we need to use AI to empower a greater society. I think we've lost our great society post World War II, and we need to get it back. How do we use technology to get it back? Right now, the technology is in the hands of big tech. Web3 was supposed to be decentralization and empower alt tech to empower, the population. That didn't happen. So how can we work with big tech and provide guidelines in terms of ethics and goals for a greater society? And there's going to be society upheaval based on this technology. It's hard to even to anticipate what that damage is. There's a lot of good, but there's going to be a lot of displacement. What does that do to us as a society? And how can you use AI to, again, empower those displaced? Upskilling is a huge thing that's going to happen. That's what that's what we're trying to do with RealmIQ. But these are all factors, but it's going to take individuals, and we can't trust big government and big tech to do it all. You can see how governments are so ignorant of technology, and it's all a bunch of old white guys making rules. And so we need to support diversification and empowerment and work with big tech to make sure that they're providing ethics. And again, getting back to our educational system, how do we reinvent education that embraces technology? So we're getting close, if not past our half an hour. We want to keep these short, but thank you so much, Orion. You're fantastic intellectual, and I'm glad we could have a moment to talk about this stuff. And so we want to have you back and look forward to working with you. So thank you so much. And we want all the viewers, please watch for more of these RealmIQ sessions and follow us on LinkedIn to see what we're up to. Actually coming up is the Great Debate on October 5, where I will be on the debate team. It is an AI Impact event. And following that is the AI Impact virtual event, November 4th through 7. It has over 40 speakers. I'm one of the speakers. Check it out at aimpact.com, aiimpact.com. And follow me at curtdoty.co. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone. You can now catch RealmIQ sessions on your favorite podcast channels, including Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Podcasts. Or listen to the full sessions at curtdoty.co/RealmIQ. If your company is interested in reaching an audience of AI professionals and decision makers to promote your event or product, we do have sponsorship opportunities. If you enjoy these discussions on AI, please push that subscribe button below. I'll see you in the next video.
RealmIQ. Book your corporate AI workshop today.
Subscribe to our Media Slam newsletter and learn more about the intersection of design, content, and technology. CurtDoty.co
branding, marketing and product development.